We got a couple blocks of wood there to provide extra support for the jack. Keep it from sinking in. It'd be quite a bit safer. We got the tire off the ground. We want to get this high enough to get a jack stand in here. Okay, hold there. Lower it back down. Stop. Now the wheel's off the ground, we can go ahead and finish taking these lugs off. That somewhere. And if you look close here, you can see the this rotor has a pretty bad crack on it. We replaced the caliper and pads earlier on this. The original caliper was seized, caused the rotor overheat, and you can see it's all glazed up and it's got this nasty crack in it. So what we're doing today is we're actually replacing the rotors. We're going to replace the rotor on this side, and we're going to rebuild the brake caliper on the other side. Since it's a new caliper, we won't need to do that. So we'll just go from there. In order to get these brake pads off from around the caliper, usually there's a little ridge cut into the caliper. It makes it a pain, so you have to compress the pads, especially when you're putting on a new rotor, because the new rotor is so much wider. We're going to put a C-clamp in here and go around the back of the brake cylinder like that, and then we'll just turn and compress this, and I'll get you a closer view here. If you look down here, you can see we've already compressed some, and that brake pad's compressed pretty good. There we go. Get rid of the C-clamp here. Next we're going to take the lower slide pin out of the brakes, or out of the brake caliper, and I'll try to get you a shot of that. And I believe that is a, let's see if that's a 14. That is a 14 millimeter. You gotta remember, when you're working on a bolt that's on the opposite side from you, it's not lefty-loosey, it's right to loose, because you're looking at it backwards. If you try cranking it this way, you'll break that bolt off. So we'll slide this out, keep it somewhere clean. This is the slide. The caliper runs back and forth on that. You don't want to get it filthed up. We need to take these two 10 millimeter bolts off, or 10 millimeter heads that are holding this brake cable on, so we can move the caliper out of the way. That frees up the brake hose and gives us a little more maneuverability on things. Use a piece of wire to hang the caliper off part of the brake assembly up here, so we're not straining that hose. With that bolt out, the caliper will just slide out like that. Run a piece of wire through. This is just copper housing wire. And we're going to tie this up over here, so it won't be going anywhere on us. Next we got to take off the caliper bracket assembly. This unit here. We'll go ahead and pull these pads out, set them aside. They're still in pretty good shape. Even though they've been riding on a bad rotor, they're pretty new and don't have a lot of wear on them. Bolts for the caliper bracket are 17 millimeter, so it's not a lot. Remember, you're going, oh, that one's a little tighter than I expected. Try a longer wrench here. This is why you really want to have these things on a jack stand. You start yanking on stuff and moving stuff. If your jack's not stable, you could drop the whole front end of your car, and even if you don't drop it on yourself, it's still quite a pain in the neck to get the car back up. And there's another one up top. Get the second bolt off, and this assembly just comes out of there. Make sure not to lose your springs. Set that aside for now, and now we can start working on the rotor. Some of them may or may not have these two screws you got to take out first. There you go. And they can be rusted on, corroded on. First, have two threaded holes. These are in pretty rough shape. I don't know if the bolts I have will go into them, but we'll give it a shot. And basically what you do is take a couple spare bolts, whatever you can find. I'm not sure of the thread on these. That doesn't really matter. Just find one that fits and doesn't cross thread. So what you do is you run the bolts in. That pushes against the back plate, and it pushes the rotor forward. Just grab me the whole box. I might need some of that stuff. It starts raining, just like that. It starts raining, will destroy everything in the back of my truck. Alright, so with an appropriate screwdriver, these things are totally, I don't know who's been working on this thing, but look at that, it's amazing. We got those out, and if the rotor was nice and clean on there, we'd be able to pop that right off. Yeah, so we got to run these bolts in here, and like I said, these threads are pretty ugly in here. What size that is? 3/8. Nope. Be a half. Yep. Alright, that's all it took. So now that rotor's off, we're going to go ahead and measure this just so you can see what it is and what it should be. I'll just look at the rotor here. I'm waiting for something. You can see it's pretty glazed over. It's not nice metal looking. When you see the new rotors in comparison, you'll see. And there's that crack. It's pretty nasty. And that's what happens when your rotors get too hot and then they get cooled down real quick, like going through a puddle or something. No cracks on the other side. It's still pretty glazed over just from running really hot. Lots of scale. So we're going to check the thickness on this rotor real quick. The minimum thickness for these is 17 millimeters before they need to be replaced. And we'll just tighten this down. And I can't get that off. Right now we are at, you can read that, we're a little over 18.1 or so. So it's pretty close to being gone anyways, despite the crack. Would have had been replacing it pretty quickly. So we'll go ahead and get rid of that. We'll get the new rotor, put that on. But first we got to clean the new rotor. Try to get the camera over here. Grab me some paper towels. I think it's starting to rain. So this new rotor is quite a bit thicker. It's about 21 millimeters, 20 to 21. There's a lot of this crap on here. You got to get that off. We're just going to use some brake parts cleaner and a couple paper towels. So I'm going to hose this down. Just be careful not to get the stuff in your eyes or anything else. Pretty nasty. Looks like I'm running out. Mainly worried about the rotor itself. You don't want to get that stuff on your brake pads. So we'll just go ahead, wipe it down. Yeah, it's looking pretty good there. And we'll flip it over, get the back side. It's already covered in parts cleaner. Once you clean this, do not handle the rotor surface. You get oils and grease and stuff back on it, especially if you got greasy gloves like I do. That's looking pretty good. Let's see. So we're going to go right from there back onto putting this on. That's a good enough angle for now. You want to line these indented holes up with the threaded holes in the bearing there. So it's going to go on just like that. And presto, there's a brand new rotor on the vehicle. Unfortunately, I don't have any screws to replace these nasty ones. So we're going to use these. It just basically keeps the rotor on while you're assembling and disassembling things. And your vehicle may not even have them in there. Alright, so that's being held on. Move the camera back over here for the reassembly. And I'll double check the torque specifications for the brake bracket. Make sure that's out of the way. It looks good, clean. A little paper towel dust on it, but that's no big deal. Move this camera back over. If you try to get it in there so you can see the bracket going on. So here's the brake bracket, got our springs on it, got everything attached. If you're replacing the caliper, it may have come with a new brake bracket, so you can just throw that on. Okay, yeah, and we just checked the torque on that. And it's actually 28 pounds for these bolts, 28 foot-pounds. The slide pin is 17. There's one. Alright, so actually, what was the weight? Just tell me what the weight is on that. 53. Alright, so the torque on these bolts here is actually 53 pounds. I was way off. I was thinking another component here. So we got to torque that up to 53 pounds. Could you hand me the torque wrench? Someone's obviously done a little bit of shade tree mechanic work on this and didn't have a bolt that was the right size, so they used a bolt with 3 washers. Seems to be doing the job, so we're just going to go ahead and use it again. So I don't have a lot of bolts like that. No point in changing something that's working. So we're going to go up to 53 pounds on the torque wrench here. That's Newton meters. Let's try pounds, foot-pounds here. So we're at 51, 2, 3. Snug down first. Okay, there we go. 53. Alright, so we're at 53 pounds for both of those. Recommended torque for the manual, we're going to go ahead and put the caliper back on, so we'll remove this wire, tie it here. You know, when you're taking this apart, let's see if you can see that. Can you see this? Don't move it, just tell me if they can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. You want to make sure there's grease in here, you want to make sure that these pins are clean, that there's no debris, crap, sand, or anything like that before you put it back together, or it's going to just sand that down as it slides back and forth and eventually wear it out. Out of the way for a second. Some brake pads would certainly help the job quite a bit. I had to slide them in, they just ride on these brackets. Might take a little bit of fiddling and messing around, but you'll get them eventually. Alright, there's one. And here's the second one. Just like that. Well, I'm not showing on this because they're already pretty greasy if you look at my gloves. Put grease on both of these where they contact the caliper. Just keep things from locking up and locking together with rust and all that other crap that tends to happen when you're driving a car. If the caliper is compressed properly, when you put the when the caliper piston's compressed properly, you should just be able to close that right over the brake pads. If your caliper is seized or not moving properly, it may be very hard to get it moved back far enough to get the caliper back down over the pads and the new rotor. So you're definitely going to want to take that apart and look at it. We're actually going to take the passenger side caliper, we're going to put new seal and gasket on the piston, and I'll show you that when we get there. So we've got the new caliper on there. Get rid of this wire. And all that's left to do, aside from putting the tire in, is to put this slide pin back in. So I'm just going to wipe this off because I see a little bit of sand on it, and then I'll re-grease it. Definitely do not want that stuff inside of a moving system. And I'm just using this ultra disc brake caliper lube. It's this green stuff from AutoZone's Permatex brand, and it seems to work pretty good and suggested by quite a few people. And it doesn't take a lot of grease for these slider pins. It's a pretty contained area, so we're just gonna wipe it on like that, and that's all good to go. And we'll get the torque off this thing. Find out what the torque for this is supposed to be. Slide it in that bushing. Find where it seats. And tighten it in by hand first. Okay, and this is supposed to be tightened down to 33 foot-pounds. So I got that snug. And adjust the wrench for 33 foot-pounds. Alright, so we're at 30. Go up to 2, 3. Try to get the torque wrench in here. Alright, we're at 33. And that's pretty much it. We're going to put the tire back on this side and turn the car around, and we'll work on the other side. So we're going to go ahead and put this tire back on. I already have. I'm going to put the lug nuts on, torque it down. Just get them on there to begin with. You You want to get them tightened on before you lower the car first, just to make sure they're sitting in the groove. And just snug them, don't put a lot of force on them. Finger tight. Alright. These use a 19mm socket. So I'll go ahead and put that on a torque wrench. The torque wrench cranked up to 80 foot-pounds. I'm getting there. There we go, 80 foot-pounds. Go ahead and take the car off the jack stand, lower it down, and finish torquing up this side. And then we'll go ahead and finish torquing these. Just kind of work your way around, tightening them evenly in a star pattern. Yep, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just go around one more time, make sure they're torqued 80 pounds. And then in about a week, you want to check them again, make sure they haven't loosened up. If you torqued them right, they shouldn't, but it's a safety thing. Alright, and that's one rotor done and complete.